What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us. We are on episode 18. Welcome to One Day Today. This is. I feel like I say this every time, but it just has been so humbling, and it's amazing how many amazing stories that we've had of people sharing, and how it's just pointing to the same beautiful truth that how when we face our own fears, face our own situation and our own, you know, what's in the way of us, our growth, we, no matter where we come from, there's a transformation in that. And I think the people who are sharing today, I think you'll see that same theme. And I'm really excited with everyone sharing today. Let me bring in Matthew, our co-host. What's up, Matthew?
Oh, all kinds of stuff today, man. The house is now on the market, so we've got people coming in and showing it. So, like, if I get interrupted, just a heads up that could happen. But no, it's been a really lovely time, and like you said, like these broadcasts have just been beyond amazing. Like, everyone has been unique. Everyone has been really open and just had something new to share. And I've learned something from every single episode, which is
right.
Like, I can't say that about much anything else, right? Like, there's really not much else out there that, like, I actually learn something new every day. It's kind of wild. So I've been really appreciating it.
Absolutely. And today is going to be no exception. I'm excited. The first guest is a dear friend of mine, and I'm really looking forward to having her and hearing her share. So let's bring Wendy. We have Wendy Huffman, the one and only. Hi, Wendy.
The Wendy Huffman, right?
Yeah, the Wendy Huffman.
Well, hi.
Hi.
Well, we're so glad to have you. I feel like I should just let you have at it, Wendy.
Okay.
The stage is yours.
All right. Well, just to tell you a little bit about myself, I am an interior designer. I've been doing that for about 20 years, and I've accomplished some really great things that I could cross off my bucket list. One of the things was I worked in Hollywood for 3 years as a set designer and an art director, and I worked on movies, and I worked on a reality show. I did music videos for the deaf, and did a web series, so I could cross that off my list. One of my remodeling projects was published in a Los Angeles magazine, so I could cross that off my list, right? I moved to Southern Utah, and I created the interiors of these extraordinary homes in set inside of lava fields. That was just extraordinary, and so I could cross that off my list. Now I'm moving back to California, and I'm working with a eco-friendly construction company doing green design. So that's really exciting. Now, along the way, I've been fascinated with human behavior, and I have been a seminar junkie, I guess you could say. Started with Tony Robbins, and I went to a lot of his events. I crewed some of his events, and then I found Landmark Education, and I got really involved with them. But I've always just been curious about human behavior and why do we do the things that we do. I married really young. At 19, I had 11 and 13-year-old stepsons that I raised, and then I had 2 sons of my own. So it was always like this question of why do we do things the way that we do, and how to figure out how to be a good mom. And anyhow, so in 2017, I became a life coach. And that it's really helpful in interior design, because a lot of times you have husbands and wives that don't agree on design styles. So it's very helpful to have some experience in counseling and coaching. Then in 2018, I had a heck of a year. I had 4 huge losses. My father-in-law died in October. My mother died in December. I lost a job that I loved in February, and then just as we were like trying to get our bearings and figure out our future, my husband went on a trip to Africa, and he died suddenly of a stroke caused by, I believe, a grand mal seizure. Anyhow, so that was in April of 2019. And can't even, I mean, you can imagine, right? You're just like, what just happened to my life? And I went to Africa. I fulfilled on a dream that he and I had of starting a nonprofit, helping a school where he was volunteering. And then just under a year of the anniversary, I stopped functioning. So what I really want to share about today is about grief and dealing with it and not dealing with it. And a lot of times, you know, when you work so hard to understand human behavior, you kind of think you have it handled, which is kind of where I was. You know, I thought I had it handled, and Abram, with friends like you and, you know, having people to share with and talk to, bounce things off of, you know, you just feel like, you know, I got this. And then it just came a day where I just didn't want to get out of bed. And I just sat and watched the clock. And it was with everything that's going on in the world today, I really thought that this would be a good subject to talk about, because I really didn't feel sad. I think from a young age, I had decided I was going to be happy no matter what. And that was kind of my bar. Like, I deserve to be happy, and happiness is a choice. You hear everybody say this, right? And so it was like, yeah, I choose happiness. So even while I was dealing and grappling with the losses that I had, you know, I had my moments of grieving, and then I was just like, okay, this is what happened. Now what's next? I have to pick up my life. I have to make a new path, a new future. And I told a lot of people, like, what's great about Bill and I creating this beautiful future of contribution is that I still get to live that. I still get to create that with our nonprofit, and I get to live into that. But then when this happened, like, I really saw, I didn't see it actually. I was kind of like, I don't know what's wrong. And people would say to me, my friends and coaches would say, well, what is it that you're thinking? And I'm like, I'm just thinking I don't want to get out of bed. And it's like, well, you know, I wasn't crying. I wasn't sad. I guess the best way to describe it was just complete numbness. Kind of happy. Like this ridiculous kind of like, you know, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I just don't want to get out of bed right now. So that went on for like a month. And I kept thinking, well, tomorrow things will be better. I'll just stay in bed today. Tomorrow I'll figure it out, right? And then one of my clients actually called me out of the blue, and she said, Wendy, I met somebody the other day, and he's a grief counselor with hospice. Why don't you talk to him? And I'm like, okay, all right. You know, like how much does it cost, right? Because my income went from substantially here to like nothing, almost nothing. And now hospice doesn't charge for counseling. So for any of you out there that are dealing with something, keep that in mind. Hospice offers free counseling for people dealing with grief. So I called Steve. Steve Middlebrooks, great guy here in Franklin, Tennessee. And we started talking, and he said, I noticed that you don't cry when you talk about Bill. Or he said, you cry and then you tell a joke and then you laugh. And I was just like, well, I'm present. You know, this is this is what happened. I'm just trying to create a future. And one of the things that he said was, it's okay to be with your sadness, you know, and then you work through it. And anyway, I'm sure that there's a lot of other people out there, especially with what's going on in the world today with COVID, that are like struggling with how to deal with grief. I did find a really great book. First of all, suicide is off the charts right now. They said in the last 2 months, they've exceeded like the number of suicides for the year. So I just want to reach out to everyone and say, don't go through this alone. Whatever you're dealing with, find somebody to talk to. There's people out there. There's a suicide hotline. There's grief counselors. Hospice is one. Just reach out to your friends. Just ask. And if they don't hear you, they don't hear what you're asking, keep asking, okay? Just here's another really great book called The Grief Recovery Handbook. This is the best book on grief that I've seen. And it has you do exercises. I'm going to be doing a group. I'm not a certified counselor for them. It might be something I do in the future, but I've listened to the book once and I've been through it twice, and it just says, don't do this alone, don't do this alone. So I reached out to a few people, and we're going to start a group, and it might be something, you know, that you could do with your friends too. Anyway, that I've had some real huge breakthroughs in the last few days and months, and even actually just days, and realized, like, even from raising teenagers, disappointments, you know, with children, getting a divorce, all these things that have happened, each one is a loss that needs to be grieved. And you need to spend time getting complete with it so that you can move on and create the next chapter of your life. Other words, you just, you become numb, and you don't know how to process. At least I didn't know how to process it. So anyway, I hope that's beneficial to anyone. And I just want people to know that they're not alone in this COVID crisis. You're not alone, and don't give up hope. There's always, the sun will rise tomorrow. You know, the earth has been around a long time, and the sun keeps coming up. And whatever we're struggling with as humans, like, the earth will keep turning, and we'll get through this, and it'll be history. So just hang in there, reach out, ask for help, tell people if you're struggling, and don't be ashamed and don't be afraid. That's it. Abram, anything you want to add to that? You've kind of watched me go through this whole thing.
Well, first off, thank you, Wendy, for sharing your story and your transformation and some tools that you found to be powerful. I mean, I feel like I've known you my whole life. I feel like I met you in maybe October, August, or September.
It hasn't even been a year. I know.
Yeah, it's not even been a year, but it feels like it's been years. But I've definitely, I acknowledge your compassion and your love for just you are unstoppable, and the work that you've done and just empowering people, and and myself included. Like, you're such a, I'm biased because I'm calling you pretty often. So, but you're always helping and loving and being just so gracious, and I acknowledge you, just that you're always trying to support and help people. And I think it's beautiful who you're being in the world.
Well, thank you. Well, yeah, I love what you're creating here with One Day, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely.
So people can reach out to me on Facebook. I have coaching.wendyhuffman is my coaching page, although it's kind of on, I'm not doing it actively now. It's just kind of like as opportunities come up, but mainly focusing on the green design, which I'm excited about, moving back to California. But also just friend me on Facebook, Wendy.Huffman1.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask, at what point did you realize at what point have you always been a giver? Have you always been someone that, because I feel like you have this giving nature, and like, where does that come from for you?
Well, we in our work in Landmark, we go through like the deconstruction of our personality, right? And I just think, some people are just born like with the personality that wants to give, but also there's things that happen, where it kind of becomes something that you do to be accepted or loved. I had an incident when I was younger, where I felt like I was not wanted and in the way. And so I made this I made a decision actually back then, like that I had to help people in order to be wanted. And that was one thing I got out of Landmark Forum, was that I could do it as a choice now. Like, and it's empowering me instead of like driving me out of a need to not be, because I'm not good enough. Does that make sense? But yeah, I definitely get the juice from seeing other people get what they want out of life, get unstuck. I love helping people create futures to live into, and just being a part of watching people grow and develop. It feeds me. I think that's the juice, right?
Absolutely. Matthew, I think you're muted, brother.
I am so muted, am I? Okay. It's been a weird day, guys. I'm sorry. No, I totally get that. Like, there were several things I'd like to come back to in your share, but just on that particular point, it does, like, it took me a while to realize this for myself. I heard Stephen Levine talking about it years ago. When you go into hospice and you talk to the people who are dying and you ask if they have any regrets in their lives, it's not, I wish I'd done this. It's not, I wish I'd been here. It's not, I wish I'd had this much money. It was, I wish I had connected more. I wish I'd loved more. I wish I'd, that's the regrets that come up at the end of life. And it's consistent across the board, across cultures. Like, it's just, that's it. Like, and, it took me a while to realize what that actually meant. Like, there's not a lot of real connection that I experienced growing up, that I experienced in this society. And one of the things I love about this in particular is it invites that deeper, vulnerable connection, that sharing from that really vulnerable space. And so thank you just for sharing from that. Like,
and the breakthroughs keep happening. It's like I feel like I'm on the verge of tears all the time, in a good way. Like in seeing areas where I've been shut down with my kids. It's like, I love my kids. I so love my kids, and I'm moving back there after 20 years of being away, and it's like, what was holding me back? Like, why didn't I want to live there? And I saw in this work that I've been doing with this book and with the grief counselor, I really got, like, I felt like a failure as a mother, and like it was hard for me to face that. And I talked to my son last week about it, and I was like, I'm sorry, I've been running away. And my kids turned out great. That's what's so amazing. They turned out awesome. And it's all like up here, like, what did I think? Or what did I expect at that time? Or, and we have these ridiculous ideas about how things should be. And then it's like, I feel so free. I'm so excited to go back and be with my family. Like, really present with them and connected to them in a way that I haven't been in 20 years. So, and that's...
I'm excited for you.
Thank you. That's a huge gift. It's a huge gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that was one of the things I got out of Landmark Forum too, is actually reconnecting to my parents, like realizing that I had cut them out of my life entirely. And that,
wow.
At the time, it felt necessary. Like, it felt like something I had to do to kind of claim my independence. And I don't regret doing it, but then realizing that that's what I was continuing to do, even though I didn't need that anymore, was kind of a big thing.
Yeah, there's a time, there's a time when sometimes actions will serve us.
Yeah.
But then it like continues long past its usefulness.
Yeah, it's like we get stuck in that habit and it just keeps going, like even though it doesn't help anymore. Like
it's helpful to have people around you to help you see that. Conversations. I heard someone say transformation doesn't happen in a monologue. It always happens in a dialogue.
Right.
You can't talk yourself through these things. You really need to bounce off ideas off of other people and share. Sharing is it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sharing is caring, as they say.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wendy, I have a question for you. What does one day mean to you?
One day. You're gonna make me cry. It's like the one day movement is the impossible dream of having a world that works for everyone. Like really, like bringing down the barriers that divide people and having people being fully self-expressed in their uniqueness.
Wow. Beautifully said. I just wanted to let that sit for a second.
Yeah, we should just adopt that one.
Yeah.
I think I stole it from Abram. It's like, I like that. That's mine. I'm taking that. My dad used to say the art of originality is forgetting where you hear it.
Right.
That's awesome. I love it. That's great. That's very beautifully said. I really appreciate, again, who you're being in the world, Wendy, and you're just such a bundle of love, and just you sharing your story of your continuing transformation, which I always have to remind myself, and yesterday's transformation is today's ego trip. It's not like I'm perfect. It's not perfection. It's not.
It's a mountain with no top, man. There's a mountain with no top.
Right.
Well, you inspire me. You inspire me, Abram. And thank you, Matthew, for being a part of it. It's awesome.
Oh, it goes both ways. You inspired me as well. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing. I hope you'll come and share again soon. Now that you've got, you've jumped in the water, now.
Yeah. I'll have more things to talk about too.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, that sounds great. Well,
talk about some green design and some stuff I'm going to be learning about that. I'm so excited about that too.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Who's got next?
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Wendy.
All right.
Bye.
So I just want to say thank you again to both our guests. I want to thank you for tuning in. We could not do this without you. This is really we want to give you a space to share your unique contribution, your unique gift. And we invite you and encourage you to be a part of this and, share what your unique genius is with us, and if you're interested, we invite you to visit our website, onedaymvmt.org. But we want to share with you the space that we can all connect and live in a higher level of collaboration in a spirit of seeing our neighbor and loving our neighbor as ourselves and treating them as we like to be treated, and knowing that benefits us and our families. When our neighbors and their families are safe and healthy, so are we, and so are our families. And our mission is bringing you and I and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And we're doing that one share and one conversation at a time, and we're just getting started. I'm really excited about our next guest. Let's get Lewis on here. Hey, Lewis. We have Lewis Brantmeyer. How you doing today, Lewis? Thank you for joining us.
I'm fantastic. It's a delight to be here. Thanks for having me on.
We're super excited to have you, and I'm gonna let you have at it. So, Lewis, the stage is yours.
All right, love it. Well, good afternoon, everyone. What's my story? Well, I know I'm among landmark grads, so I'm telling the narrative of my life, not my story. I started off broke, ignorant, blackout drunk, atheist philosophy student. And I went from there with the help of programs like Landmark to social butterfly, ladies' man, eventually salesman, public speaker, author, entrepreneur, coach. And when I started thinking about what gift I had to give, like what was the unique sort of gold underneath the path of my transformation, it was really emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence. It was a realization, not just that everything is perfect and we're all one and there's nothing wrong, but also like bringing happiness to people, bringing the joy that is oftentimes locked inside by a proliferation of rules and reasons why you can't be happy now that we all uniquely have, we all make up. It was like, the question then became for me like, all right, so what can I, in the space of, 10, 15 minutes, unpack and explore and explode into your world that would give you the most joy and the most peace and the most love and the most happiness in the shortest span of time. So I'm gonna sort of tell you my story and distinguish something for you. Something that if I had when I was 18, oh boy, there would have been a lot less suffering. There would have been a lot more contribution, a lot more service, a lot more love. So, all of us start off thinking that happiness comes about when our life conditions happen to match our blueprint. Our blueprint is whatever we think or judge, whatever opinions, whatever we approach situations with that is already always in the back of our mind. Programming from teachers, preachers, media, family, friends, government, who through no fault of their own often tell us what we should be thinking or what the limits of what is possible are. So we all start off in what I and one of my good buddies, Jonathan England, in his book, If I Die Before I Wake, call level 1, where we're stuck in the past, we're dwelling on the past, we're repeating patterns from the past. And the future's kind of dark and the future's just uncertain and we're kind of trying to survive it, protect ourselves from it, hope that something goes well. And, somewhere along the way, in that space, I did, as with apparently everyone on this live cast, the Landmark Forum. And so I skipped from through level 2, which we'll get to in a second. There are 5 levels, by the way. Just there are 5. To this realization that happiness isn't the result of my life conditioning, sort of like a casino roulette, like landing in a way that matches my blueprint. It is, in fact, it comes from burning the blueprint. Happiness comes from burning our blueprint of how things should be, how we think we should show up, how we expect or anticipate, and letting go of all of these rules, all of these stories we've made up about what life is, what we should accomplish, be, do, or have, and be gratefully, nurturingly, nourishingly engrossed and captured in the beauty and joy that is ours by birthright in experiencing the present moment. And so, I say I skipped level 2 because I really didn't want to accomplish much in my life. I didn't have any orientation towards changing my life conditions, impacting the conditions in my life or the world. But once I had this realization that basically we're all one and everything is perfect, and there's nothing to be, do, or have, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to accomplish, then I was like, wait a second. So now that I have that state of being, now that I have that context, that grounded experience in my body, I can go out into the world and I can in fact change some of my life conditions and have them match my blueprint, but with an unattached sort of holding around them, to where it's not like I have to, got to, must suffer, strange struggle and push myself in order to accomplish something so that at the end of the rainbow I can be happy. No, it's a unique creative expression of who I am in the world, and refining that capacity to impact other people and to impact my life. It's beautiful. However, it's limited, right? So, you know, my way into level 2 was, as I said, socially awkward, anxious, introverted. I decided who I wanted to be was Casanova, which was, of course, looking outside of myself for mentorship and happiness. I decided that growing up super Catholic, sexually repressed, that I hadn't had enough sex, dates, relationships, love, all of that, romance, adventure. So I put all of that personal development, I put all of that training in the service of, I thought, being a contribution, but mostly in service of me getting from other people what I thought I didn't have myself, covertly. So I invented the possibility of being Casanova, which I know you guys probably have been through the advanced course. So in the course of that course, that was who I invented myself as. And yet, as one of my favorite authors likes to say, be careful when you make your choices that determine your life to ensure that you're acting from wholeness rather than a wound. So possibility can sprout from a ground that is full of ugly weeds. And that possibility can be itself seemingly beautiful and nourishing and uplifting, but can take you, your body, your mind, your soul in a direction that is ultimately harmful. Now, there's level 4 and 5, which we'll get to, which kind of redeems all of this. But I spent a lot of years chasing after validation, after sex, after affection and appreciation, thinking that that was the thing. So this consciousness of everything is perfect, it liberated me, the little boy who witnessed his mother being beaten with my little brother inside of her by a wounded man. Hurt people, right? I love my dad. He's gone through a lot of transformation since that time. But I was looking for what I didn't have when I was growing up. And here's the thing. You can distinguish, you can converse, you can create empowering contexts until you're blue in the face, but until you feel, life is an 18-inch journey from the head to the heart through the emotions. And if you don't feel, as our lovely, Wendy was just saying, feel the grief, move through it. Like, unless we do that, we won't actually fully get the juice that's available, either in contribution or in service or in life as a whole. So like, for me, I had to run aground on a lot of difficult situations, a lot of painful circumstances. There's a moment where I was in a codependent relationship with a woman who I thought I loved, but who I was attached to her showing me that love in specific ways because I was reacting to a pattern of pain in my body, in my emotions, that 5 years of distinctions and conversations never addressed. So, you know, when I started to touch and stay, be with and feel through and feel fully what was there, I started to look at loving myself, and I started to look at the art of loving myself, and, you know, making that a commitment and a practice. And I did a 90-day fast from all sex and orgasm and porn and dating and relationships. I was like, all right, this is who I have been. This is who I am now. I'm an expression of love for myself and through myself for others, because as I said, we're all one. So when you start to embody this, when you start to find yourself in a knowing that happiness is an inside job, that love is something that ultimately it's irrational to expect in a certain sense from the outside world. Like, you can have people that you're in relationship with who reflect the energy of your love for yourself, but to expect love from a human, to think that that love is the thing that will make you meaningful, it's codependent, it's broken, it's ultimately bankrupt, and it'll leave you feeling like the victim looking for a hero in your partner for the rest of your life, and reacting and triggering. And so having all of this, learning all of this, I was like, well, so my purpose now is to spread this. If we're all locked in cages of our own making and the unlock is on the inside, then of course I want everybody who I can find to unlock that cage for themselves, to discover, create, distinguish happiness. And this is level 4. So we've gone from disoriented, you know, feeling powerless, to feeling powerful, but acting out of unconscious programming still in even what we desire, which for me was Casanova, to happiness, like true, plain, simple, clear, like there's nothing I need, there's nothing I have to accomplish or achieve or have or be or do. And then realizing, wait a second, if I can have this and we're all one, then everybody should have this. Who I am as a contribution to where I want everyone on the planet to discover, experience, express, embody this for themselves, because it's such a better world, number one. Number two, it's such a richer experience of life. And then finally, who I believe we are as a species is contribution. We are meant to give, and to be involved in a movement like One Day is just to consciously respect and honor the flow of service and love and gifts that is always already flowing through us, unless we stifle it through blocks and beliefs and trauma and pain stored in the body, emotional and otherwise. Like it's always coming out and through us. And yet, here's the thing. I did body work. I did mastery systems. I did all this work, right, to dig into and pull the weeds from my garden, because those weeds are physiological, not contextual. Some of them, you know, you can begin to deal with contextually, but and through conversation. But I found that none of that landmark work ever landed in my body until I started accepting I'm a body. I'm a body and not just a brain taxi. I'm not just a conversation. Having complete integrity, experiencing my wholeness, my completeness, my perfection means appreciating what's going on here, and even, get this, listening to it from time to time. And not just listening to it like taking care of myself, but realizing that, and here was level 5 for me, because, you know, we look at level 4, we're like contribution, service. What if the whole world were here? Well, here's the thing. You can't see a picture when you're inside of it. You don't know the final scene or the next scene in a movie when you're a character in it, unless you've read the script, which, okay, so the metaphor breaks down there. But imagine you're part of this grand, glorious, beautiful life, this life thing. And the part that you're meant to play goes far beyond anything that your little ego can dream up. It is something that masterfully makes use of every pain and every suffering that you've experienced from your first day here as a little baby. Your mess becomes your message. Your pain becomes other people's freedom. And yet, we come up with these ideas of who we're supposed to be. When I got into the coaching world and started sharing transformation, I thought I would be a dating and relationship coach. Boy, did I have a lot to learn. That was before the codependent relationship. That was before the focus on loving myself. And, you know, my gift ended up not being what I thought, what I invented that it was supposed to be, which was dating and relationship coaching. It was instead events. So I do day-long, immersive, premium quality, transformational experiences surrounding entrepreneurship, sex and intimacy, wealth, creativity, relationships, you know, the not so important things. And, you know, what I found is that it has actually required multiple modalities of transformation or healing or work on myself for any or each of them to land fully for me and to be integratable into my life. So my commitment with these events is to bring people who are the real deal from multiple angles and modalities and trainings to work on us in a way and to have us work together on each other in such a way that we experience the full blossom and potential of what it means to be human, which is my purpose in this world, to access, express, embody, and awaken the highest potential in each and every one of us for the highest good of us all. So, you know, in the process of doing that, though, I started to listen, as I said, to my body. I started noticing that things proceeded better when I did what lit me up, what made me feel good in my body. And I'm not talking cocaine. I'm talking there is a way in which each of us is meant to serve that will light us up to the highest degree and that will actually nourish and nurture and provide sustenance to us. As Wendy was saying, giving nourishes and fills her up. And we're all meant to experience that from our unique angle, in our unique way, whether it be a heart-centered business or practice of some kind, whether it be giving your art in the world. And I believe in a world where that's all, that we have to do. Find your life's purpose, get paid for being you, is what we say at Earthwaking University and in the Spiritual Capitalist Mastermind. Why? Because I and other people have done just that. Now, here's the thing. My body is the expression of an infinite intelligence. This was, so, you know, Landmark for me was the gateway drug to transformation, so to speak. But it was incomplete. And if you look at the practice of even the highest level Landmark Forum leaders, they are heavily involved with gurus, with spiritual teachers, because when you realize that your life is meant for contribution, you begin to ask, how can I be a contribution at the highest level? Like, I have my thoughts on how I should, notice it creeps back in, the attachment, the blueprint, the judgments. I should show up in order to impact the most people. But what if, and this was revolutionary for me, so talking as a former atheist, what if there's an infinite intelligence that expresses itself as intuition through the body often, through the still small voice, to tell us moment by moment where to put our attention, our energy, and our service to make the greatest difference for the highest number of people. So over the past year, I've started to embrace this. And as I have done so, I have seen magic and breakthroughs to a degree that was impossible before and that was inconceivable for me. One of my best friends bringing in $400,000 in a 90-minute presentation meant to create a community to change and awaken and transform the world. Me, you know, having my business finally work after years of struggling and reaching a level that it was like, all right, I know where I am. I know what I'm about. I know who I am, right? And so you can't know the picture while you're inside of it. What if there were a perspective that was able to tell you moment by moment where to go and what to do and help you? We like to say, all that I need is actually already within me now. We like to say at Earthwaking also that, you know, you already have all the answers that are relevant to you. It's just the programming and the beliefs of teachers, preachers, family, friends, media, government, society, in short, that represses, suppresses, keeps us from accessing that innate, infinite intelligence and intuition. So anyway, this is just what I felt guided. Like, I didn't know what I was going to say before I got on. So I was like checking in and waiting for all the pieces to come together. And I was like, okay, this is the thing that feels right to share. And I can't see anybody. I haven't had any, let's see, why is he out of sync? Now it is. All right. Yeah, I was expecting to be on the screen with somebody else, but I've just been, you know, sharing from my heart for a while now. There is an event that I most highly recommend 100% to anyone who is interested in peace, love, and joy, who is interested in fulfillment and power and freedom and self-expression and peace of mind and, you know, creativity. It's a 2-day event. It is, to this community, it's like the Landmark Forum, but on acid. It incorporates everything that I've learned from emotional embodied intelligence and spiritual intelligence to give people access to the highest expression of love, both for themselves in their own bodies and their minds and in their community. And it's happening this weekend. It's free. I'll make sure a link is dropped in the description for this. It's called Awakened Life Live. And in 10 years of transformation, it's the most powerful and impactful experience I've ever had. And so obviously I'm going to shout from the rooftops, right? Because I want whatever cage you are in subconsciously to be something you have ease and speed, facility, tools, technologies, conversation, and community to support you in unlocking. And, you know, get in tune with the bliss, the birthright of the incredible powerhouse that you are, the incredible contribution that you are, the incredible gift that your service is. So anyway, that was what I had to say. I love you all so much. I can't wait to see my compatriots back on the screen so we can have more of a conversation. I was expecting, oh, there you are. All right. I was expecting more of a dialogue.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, man. Well, it's good to see you again.
Well, this is the dialogue portion, but it's great to see you.
Fantastic.
I could listen to you. That was beautifully put. You summed up so many things in so many ways, in such a succinct way, and wow, that was very powerful. You know, it's beautiful to hear you share your transformation, and it's amazing to hear you sum it up. You use words to describe transformation in a way that I don't think I've ever heard more beautifully and succinctly put. So that was awesome. I really appreciate everything you said, and it really hit home in so many places, and it hit home. You know, like the codependent relationship, the introvert, and you know, all there's so many things that, you know, I blew up my identity to get affirmation and to try to get worthiness from an outside source, outside of myself. And I think it's amazing how you summed it up. So how there's so many things I want to ask you, but so where do you like okay, here's a question. So one thing I've discovered is, you know, the road to peace, for my own peace, is ironically not avoiding conflict. It's like the difference between being kind, and like when there's conflict that comes, you know, because you're right, everything's perfect in the world, you know, we are all one. I forget what you said. We're all perfect. We're all one.
We're all one, and everything's perfect. Yeah, it's a few, and it can take faith to actually see that from time to time. Right. Like no, this is what's true, even though a black man is getting brutally murdered by a police officer.
That's what I was gonna say. So like, what is your experience or process for when there is someone who doesn't see their own authentic expression of the universe within themselves? What, like, you know, how do you bring your peace when there's chaos? Like, what do you do in that situation?
Great question. So there's how would I bring peace to an individual, and then there's how would I bring peace as a context and experience to a situation. So I'll answer both. To an individual, we have a lot of practices at Earthwaking. The resistance release process, for example. Whenever I notice that I in my body am reacting to something, it's usually because I have an attachment subconsciously to how things should show up. And all I need to do is release that resistance, the fear, the anger, the sadness, the guilt, the shame, sometimes whatever it is that has me believe or choose to believe that this should not be as it is. And ultimately, peace is always accessible underneath it. That's the one magical thing. Like, if I were to treat this like a scientific thing, my journey, the magical thing is that on the other side of every breakthrough seems to be more peace, love, and joy. It seems to be that's our natural state. And when we can tap more into it, more of it becomes available, and then our whole life becomes pervaded by it, and then we become purveyors of it. So the release resistance process, we have what we call paradigm therapy, or the breakthrough process, where literally we have somebody not just identify that story that they came up with, and it's not just a strong suit, right? It's everywhere in life. We are always generating new stories in relation to all sorts of circumstances. And the reason that story gets stuck in our body is because it's tagged with an emotion. So it's not just, hey, I identify that one of my strong suits is trying to figure things out, and I'm an asshole trying to manipulate and understand things so that I can chess master my way into being safe, because I wasn't safe when I was young and I decided life isn't safe. It's that there's literally a feeling in my body that I did not feel back then, that I get to feel now, and that if I feel now, I can transplant and put a new belief, like I'm always safe. Why would a child of God ever feel unsafe? Was my replant, so to speak, replacement, new story, whatnot. So that we do this breakthrough process with people, and it's magical, and it's dramatic, and it's beautiful, and it's elegant. And I'm happy to do that. You know, get on a call with anybody who has something that they're experiencing that is causing them suffering, to lead them through that and to find more peace, love, and joy. Now, contextually, for an experience of a situation, right? There is you can't see the picture while you're inside of it, right? So this will work out somehow. I don't see it yet, and I might not see it in the moment, but if I trust and have faith, so again, coming from an atheist, it's weird to be quoting Christian scripture from time to time, but it was, I think, Romans 13, all things work for good for those who believe. And there's the entrepreneur's way of seeing that, which is like, well, that's what happened. I can't change the past, and I'm finding a way to draw those threads together into a way that makes it all work out for me. Like I can put an empowering context, window dressing on what happened. But the more that I've paid attention, the more it seems like all of this is actually being worked out by a force that is larger than me, a force that includes me, a force that, you know, I can connect to, but which has everything work out for the highest good of everybody involved, even if to the limited judgment and opinion and perspective of my ego, it isn't working out. It isn't perfect. There is something that shouldn't be, right? Did that answer your question?
Yes, I think that absolutely answered the question.
I'd actually like to just jump in and add one thing to that, if I could.
Sure.
Yeah.
Often, like, the pushback that comes from that, just from my own experience in working with people through these places in their lives, is, well, what about the people who died? You know, what about the ones who actually didn't make it? What about the ones who, and that, like, I can't answer that question from a place of knowing. I can't tell them an actual truth.
Right.
What I can say is that my experience has been, I remember being here before in a different body. And chances are, if that was true once, it may be true again. But like that there is, like, I do have experiences of before this place, before this body. And I have had experiences in this body of going back to places where I've been before. And so that kind of goes back to, you know, I don't know what it is. Like every culture talks about it differently. I love the way the Hawaiians talk about it, because the Hawaiians don't talk about it in a way that it's past lives. They talk about it as ancestral memories. And, you know, when they talk about it, that intuition, that intelligent voice that is above us, bigger than us, that can guide us if we let go and allow it. They talk about it as the voices of the ancestors. Grandmother's whisper is how it's commonly referred. And so, like, it's funny, like, it doesn't seem to matter what the belief is, whether it's Christianity or Muslim or, you know, Sufism or Buddhism. What matters is having that trust in what, like that verse, all things work towards good for those who love. Like just trusting that is going to work out. And it seems like the more I allow that trust, have that trust, the more joyful my life is, the easier my life is, the faster things come. It's just, and then getting back to the ones who did die, there was a woman I had a really long interview with a few weeks ago, Judy Thurston, and her son died at age 18 of a drug overdose, opioid overdose. And she wrote a book out of it called My Beautiful Tragedy. And I highly recommend it. It's probably going on sale right about now, actually. But one of the things that came up in our conversation was, you know, what did his death bring attention to? What is now possible because of what happened and because of how he died? And now there's this whole new realm of possibility in her life that never existed before. And it was because her son gave her the gift of that tragedy. And that goes back to me that everything is perfect. And we're all okay, even though we're not okay.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love it. I was going to caveat that I may sound from time to time as if I'm coming down on the speaking from a truth perspective. It's tricky because in order to actually believe, you have to operate cybernetically speaking in a world where it is true. I'm acting as if it's true that God will provide for me. When in fact, speaking purely metaphysically, logically, and philosophically, I don't fucking know.
Right.
To know. It's, I mean, I claim that if you try something on, right? And I was planning on this, right? If you try it on, you'll see things differently. If you try it on, your performance, your behavior, your actions, your results will change, and that there's something available there. Aleister Crowley, who you can tell that it's a great conversation when I'm quoting Aleister Crowley at the same time as I'm quoting Christian scripture. He used to say about certain visions that he had, he said, I don't want to father a flock of fools or be the fetish of fanatics. I merely want to point out that there's something there to be found, and that each person should cut their own way through the jungle. So,
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, I see that. I wanted to ask you, Louis,
Sure.
because I asked Wendy, because I want to bring in Wendy in this conversation as well to get you guys to go back and forth. But what does one day mean to you?
Huh. Today, now, here is the place to make the difference. I mean, not someday, maybe, not one day eventually, but here and now. And like, obviously be here now, but be fully here now. Like, be fully, when I look at level 4 and 5 from my world of distinctions, right? They're a way for the sponge that I am to get squeezed all the juice of what I am, so that it goes out into the world the way that it's meant to. Like, it's, and that this day be used at the highest level for and through me, for everyone who I can impact. So yeah, one day for me is about now. It's about service now. It's about service at the highest level. And it's about service through the contribution of communication and sharing.
I love it.
I totally feel
Good.
it. Yeah, Wendy, like
Write that one down, Matthew. that last thing. Can you say that again, Louis? What was it?
You know, when
That
I'm
was
in
good.
flow, when things are flowing, I lose track. One of my good friends, he likes to speak of public speaking as him like sitting down in his mind to observe him being used. So from time to time, there are moments when I'm not here. It may look like I'm here, but Louis, the ego's turned up. I mean, yeah, I would love to remember. It was also too complicated for me to remember.
Well, it's recorded. We can look it up.
Yeah, awesome.
It's true.
In fact, that's a great question, by the way. I think the more you ask that question, the more you're going to build the rich, incredibly beautiful context to the answer. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's something we'll start doing with everyone, like just getting all the views, because it has. It's like ever since Abram started asking it, like there's just been so much that's come out. I've loved it. There was something else I wanted to bring up, but so like going back to what you were saying about the just sitting back and like watching myself be used, like the greatest. Yeah, like the greatest moments I've ever experienced are the moments when I've done absolutely nothing.
Right? It's true.
It's like,
Wendy, what do you, did you have anything that Louis was saying that you wanted to circle back?
I wrote down burn the blueprint. That was my favorite right there. Burn the blueprint, man. That's right. When you let go of expectations are always going to cause disappointment. Like there's just no benefit to having an expectation. There's always, I love that. Burn the blueprint.
We like to say at Earthwaking, you can never have a broken heart, only broken expectations.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
Wow.
I like that.
Yeah, that's so. I feel that this is such a rich. It's funny for a number of reasons. Just the fact that everyone is a Landmark graduate, coincidentally, and this conversation is opened up a lot for me because it's been very empowering and inspiring, and I really appreciate you both just being here and sharing your story and your. I'm feeling the contribution, and I feel like there's going to be ripples from this conversation. Like I'm gonna something's going to hit me tomorrow. I was like, whoa, like it was one of those. And that's like the power of sharing and the power of transformation. It's a gift that keeps giving, and like you were saying, Louis is like every we all have a unique way that we can contribute and be generous, and that actually gives us energy and fuels us and feeds us. And I feel it's in that flow that we can do amazing things, you know, where we can actually all contribute. And like, that's what the vision of what One Day is about, is, you know, magnifying each of our unique contributions, that we can bring us all to a higher level of collaboration. And who both of you are being in the world is very much actualized, you know, One Day. And that's one thing that I've noticed is people who are attracted to One Day are the people who are already living in One Day. And I acknowledge both of you for joining us in One Day today.
I just want to say, like, the message, you know, of transformation is that, you know, you're not stuck with how you turned out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people don't know that. People still think like, oh, you know, a leopard can't change its spots and you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Not true, guys. Not true. People change every day. People quit smoking. People lose weight. People get married. People get divorced. People change all the time. So it's like, that's the first message that a lot of people don't know. Anyway, I just had to throw that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, the moments of those change have always been the moments when I've realized there was a choice that I was like, I was always making the choice. I just didn't realize it was a choice.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. Yeah. It's similar. I realized that not only am I the source of a solution, but I'm also the source of what's in the way.
Yes.
You know, I allowed it. I put myself there, and it's living by kind of bringing everything together. It's like we're living by choice and not by chance, you know, and it's like we have that choice every day to stand in our expression of the universe for the greater good of us all, and in a way that fuels and empowers us. And it's the greatest gift that we have, is the power of our word, how we can impact our fellow humans and raise the entire level of collaboration in which we are and that's the questions we ask in One Day. When we all show up in our true authentic selves, when we all see ourselves for who we truly are, what diseases can we cure? What scientific discoveries can we have? What spiritual collaborations can happen? What new recipes will be, you know, will come, you know? And it's like, what art and musical masterpieces. And it's like, we haven't even brushed the surface of what's possible with humanity. And I it just, talking with all of you today is just like, it's not only is there no worry, but it's exciting. Yeah. It's exciting to experience the present moment, knowing that each present moment following there's just amazing people doing amazing things. And I think that's why we're doing this, is to focus on the beauty that's happening in the world, despite, you know, there's a lot of fear and conversations of you know, division, but that's not how it has to be. And we can create a new era, especially in this time when community collaboration and connection have never been valued more. And like I said, I gained so much from having both of you on the show today. And I hope both of you will come back soon, and we're going to stay in touch. But this has been an amazing, like, I'm very grateful for both of you being here.
Yeah. Real quick, I'd like to leave you guys with one question that does not need an answer now or necessarily ever, but just as you go about the rest of your day today, I'd invite you to hold, what can we co-create together out of this? And just come back to us sometime if you ever come up with an answer.
How about we make a movement?
What do we call it?
Let's have a holiday. I'm for the holiday. I want the party. A festival. Yay.
It becomes a movement to only work 1 day a year or something. Like,
wow. This is...
I'm enrolled.
On that.
You got Matthew. I love your catch.
What do we call the holiday? I don't know. I have to figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll think of it one day. We'll think of it one day.
One day
it'll come.
Someday maybe, but not now. Definitely not now.
For some reason, I feel like you could end every episode with like, what are we going to call it? Call it one day. Like the movie, like what do you call yourselves? The Aristocrats. I don't know if you guys have seen
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's always ends the same way.
I like it. That's great. So I really appreciate you both, and thank you all for tuning in. And this has been an amazing just sharing experience, and I really gained a lot, and I'm grateful for both of you. I would like to again invite and encourage anyone who's interested to share on the stage. If you have anything, this is like I've said before, this is a picnic that everyone's invited. But what do you cook that no one else can cook the way you do? And like, what do you have to bring? And that's we want to experience who you are, and that's what makes us greater is when we can join in with you and create beautiful things together. Mother Teresa has a quote, I can do things I can do great things you cannot. You can do great things I cannot, and together we can do great things. I think I minced one of the words there if it was good, but thank you again, everybody. I really appreciate you. I want to share our vision. Our one-day vision is humanity rising in a connected world with each person's unique contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. And that's what we're starting today. And I will see you next week. We will all we have some really exciting stuff in the pipeline. I'm excited to share with you once the time is right. You'll hear about it very soon. But we'll see you next week. I love you all. Be well, be safe, and until next week, one day is today. Peace.